Yo, just wanted to do a quick updates and corrections video for previous things, bits of information that have come out of my face that have since been updated, or I just remembered later on that it was not quite correct. So it's nice for me, for my conscience, to just do my best to correct that as I go along, so that I don't have all this stuff build up in my head. And I like to be good to my word as much as humanly possible, and here we are. So yeah, hope you're doing well. This is basically for my own edification and to clarify. So if that's important to you, feel free to listen. If it's not important, feel free to ignore. The phone thing, I remember in a previous video I said I was recording on a certain phone, which I thought I was, but turns out I had, because I was upgrading or just changing phones, the thing that I thought I was recording on, which I was used to doing, was actually either the new phone or the old phone, one of the two, I don't know. But anyway, it's really dumb, really small, trivial stuff, but it's a detail that I got wrong, so I wanted to correct that. Whatever phone I said I was using, it was not that one, it was the other one. Yeah, the other thing was a recent video I said handwriting is not really a skill that's required in the world anymore. This is a pretty big oversight. I think since mentioning that, it was rattling around in my head for a while, and I'm like, is that true? Do you really feel like that? And I did write a few things, and it's just to clarify, I do think writing is incredibly valuable. Yeah, I think at the time I mentioned it more to do with like what's expected of you to fit in society. You're not really required to have the skill of handwriting very much, at least in terms of my own perspective. But the skill of writing for your own benefit and clarification and clearing things out and going over ideas and intentions and things like that, to have your own little notebooks too, or big notebooks, or notebooks of your chosen size, it's just a wonderful thing actually to do that, to have something that's written for your eyes only and for your mind, to just put pen to paper and or ink to trees. It's quite interesting actually to go back, if you've ever kept a journal, to map out like diet changes or anything like that over time. It can be tricky to keep in memory, but if you've got it all written down with times and dates, you can sort of track things that way. And also, just like, I remember finding an old journal from when I was like 11 or 12 years old and just flicking through when I was in like my mid-20s and just laughing, because it was such a pure, simple, direct way of speaking and writing. It was just like, today was a nice day, and I had like a little smiley face at the end of every day to be like either happy or neutral or sad, just pretty much, just to like rate the day how I felt. And it was very basically, as a kid with very little responsibilities, most days were pretty, half decent, if not decent. So there's also, I remember finding a notebook from just after I got into doofing and going out to outdoor music events in my 20s, just really fell in love with the scene and having a sense of tribe and family, which it's like you don't know how much you need that or how much it's missing until you sort of stumble upon it, and then it's just like a revelation or an epiphany sort of thing. So anyway, I'd scribbled down all these things to do, like a long-term plan, like 5 or 7 years or something, and like things I really had my heart set on. And it's interesting to just realize that I'd completely forgotten about that, and it had been stashed away with a whole bunch of boxes and other books and other notes and whatnot. Yeah, to find that in the back of a notebook, like a list of things to work towards, and to be like, say there's a dozen things on the list, I probably did like 9 of them, and then the ones that I didn't do were not practical. It's like one of them was always go to Rainbow Serpent forever and don't miss one. It's just, great, but then ticket prices go up and it's like you can't afford to go even if you wanted to, and then the whole thing gets shut down and it doesn't even exist anymore. So yeah, stuff like that you can't really predict, and didn't feel bad about not attending an event that doesn't even exist, you know what I mean? It's not a failure on my part, but it was just more to notice that something sunk in, obviously, to my subconscious, and without even being really consciously aware of it, I was getting things checked off the list of what I wanted to achieve and do with my life. So that's cool. It's kind of reassuring in that sense. And to clarify, writing, whether you see it as a functional thing to get by in the world in terms of other people, that's one thing, and that was kind of what I was referring to in the previous video when I mentioned it. But in terms of your own, I don't know, habits and practices, it's a wonderful, really good thing to do every now and then. It doesn't have to be every day, but every now and then just write stuff down. And I love the ability to just draw at the same time and change colors and have that tactile sort of mind-body connection, whereas with digital, phones and screens and things, it's a little bit trickier to get that organic feel with things. So yeah, there's that, and there's also, I don't know when this was, but I'm sure at some point, I don't know if it was on a video, I think it may have been, so just in case it was, I'm sure at some point I mentioned that it's probably talking about fasting and the fact that you can go weeks and months on end without food, but water is quite critical, and you can you pretty much die within 2 or 3 days without water. So to update that, it's not true, actually. That's a myth. So apparently there's now people there's people mentioning the fact that they've gone 5 days without food or water, so dry fasting, and even up to 7 days on their own, and then even beyond that, up to 11 days with people around to support that process, because fasting itself is basically the prototype of all medicine, and that's where it all starts and ends, basically. It's could talk about it for ages, but you understand. So yeah, just wanted to clear my head of all those things and to be basically as honest and transparent as possible, because it's my nature and the habit that I'm in these days. Okay, I'll make another one.